Welcome. Welcome back, everyone. Well, today's a sunny day, and I think it's a sunny day in a lot of places all over the world. Now, here's a person that is the first to comment on every one of our lives, many of our videos. Happy Thoughts. Happy Thoughts is a big contributor to the whole ex-Jehovah's Witness community, by commenting. And if you look at Happy Thoughts comments, they're always happy. They're always good. Good evening, all. Looking forward to your latest news. Happy. Good evening. Now, Happy Thoughts is in the UK. Happy Thoughts is an example for me, because if you want to live a long time in life and you want to enjoy life, what do you have to have? You have to have happy thoughts. And because Happy Thoughts obviously has happy thoughts, many of you might not know that Happy Thoughts is actually 85 years old and one of the biggest contributors on the XJW channel. So I just want to give a big thank you to Happy Thoughts, and Happy Thoughts is working as, I think, in the Discord channel now, helping out. So,
same with Ruby, who's on now too.
And same with Ruby, who's on.
We really appreciate
now. So we really
their help.
Appreciate everyone's help
So much.
Where's Ruby?
At the bottom.
At the very bottom?
Yeah, at the bottom.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Ruby. So we have an excellent show coming up here. Well, it's here. And I didn't make the show. JW Org made it with their latest announcement. Their latest announcement has hit the whole world. It's a big one. It's something, this whole big shift. If you're a Jehovah's Witness or if you ever were one, this probably matters a lot more than you think, because it's not about doctrine. It's about a real decisions, real consequences, and real people. We're going to look at today some of the comments that came in off our channel only, and these are questions I've had. So we're going to look at these things. We're going to look at the governing body update just briefly. It's all over the news. Everyone's seen it. What's being said, elders' direction, what's showing up in the mainstream news. This is what blew me away. All over the world, the mainstream, and this is all we have for news really, is all of this news on this blood doctrine, So we're going to talk about another thing. Why did they release this broadcast before the memorial and then tell the elders all to be quiet, not to tell anybody until after the memorial? Why not just have the broadcast next month? You see, it leads some to believe that perhaps there are someone, the governing body, members themselves, or close family members that need this procedure. So they had to squeak it in really quick and then tell the elders to be quiet. Makes sense. These are all questions, legitimate questions that we all have. So before we get into it, we're not here to widely speculate. We're not here to attack anybody. We're here to observe this shift and understand the impact. Because whether someone believes it or not, this policy has affected lives deeply. So let's talk about what's actually happening. There's been growing discussions, reporting. There's been a shift now on how blood's being handled, and specifically the idea of using one's own stored blood, and certain medical decisions becoming more of a personal conscience matter. Now, if you've been around this belief system for a while, you already know this is not how this was treated before. This was not presented as flexible before. This was not presented as optional before. This was serious. It was absolute. It was a life or death serious. And I was looking at the comments, a lot of people have died because they didn't have this option. So now we're seeing the language appears to move toward personal decision making. That's the language, but still with rules. You know, it's only for your own blood. Your own blood. So what happens if you're in a car accident and you're losing blood on the side of the road? The paramedics say, without getting some blood into you, they'll get you to the hospital. But the doctor will say, we got to replace, you lost a lot of blood, we got to replace that. Now, our Jehovah's Witness is going to say, okay, yeah, just go to my stored bank of blood. I got some blood stored up. Just bring that in and give it to me. Now, that's if they can get you into the hospital. What if they can't get you there? So, these are all in people's minds right now. Now, what does this mean for everyone that came before? Because there are people who made irreversible decisions based on what they believed was non-negotiable truth. And now the same appears to be shifting. So I want to talk about the comments, but I'm going to do the comment section here in a little bit. First of all, we'll say hi to anybody else that's on right now. We're going to get into this is New York, Rycon. Oh, that's Ruby. I'm sorry. Hi, Ruby again. Oh, here's a comment. Jonestown, 1978, 913 children, women, and men died one day.
Diana from Holland.
So that's Diana from Holland. D. Happy Heretic. Hello, Diana. Welcome. So yes, that's true. Over 30,000 JWs died of blood refusal. But in decades, the Watchtower's getting away with it. So the Watchtower's getting away with it. They just have an easy way of changing their language. And they've been doing this all along. Hello to Rocket Roger. Good evening from Germany. And we have Mercy for 21. It's ironic that if Jesus were a JW today, he would be disfellowshipped because he values life over ritualistic laws like breaking the Sabbath. Exactly. That's exactly it. That's the point right there. And that's why we know it's a cult. It's not a Christian religion. They just use Christ as their camouflage. Okay, we're gonna move over to another screen. I'm gonna add just get into my screen. I'm gonna add this one thought. We're gonna start with this scripture, and you notice Loesch almost, well, he referenced it, didn't quote the scripture, but he talked about choosing life. Life. I believe that I'm going to blow this up for you. I use this a lot. Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. Let me see if I can get it big here. And it's right at the end. Deuteronomy 30. This is in the Jehovah's Witness Bible. It's become one of my favorite scriptures now. It's a discussion with Moses. It's a command, actually. So God said, I take the heavens, the earth, as a witness against you today, and I have put life and death before you. So all of us on earth, we have life and death before us every day. We get up in the morning, we drive down the street. All there is a little yellow dotted line, orange or whatever color it is, white on the sides up here in Canada. These little lines that are painted on the highway, and half the time they're wore off and dirty. You can't see them, but that protects us. We stay on our side of the road. Why? Because we're choosing life over death. It's quite simple. if I drive on the wrong side of the road, I'm kind of choosing death. If I drive off the road over a cliff, I'm choosing death. So my family's in the car. So I choose life. It says, so God's put life and death before us, the blessings and the curse. There's curses too in life. It's all before us. This is what life is, folks. There's blessings in it too. But here he ends up, he says, you must choose life. Choose life. And he goes on to say, so that you may live, but not only you, it's about you and your descendants, your offspring, your descendants. And he goes on to say, by loving Jehovah your God, listening to his voice, sticking to him. But this is the command. We have life and death before us, folks. And if you have the opportunity to choose life, you choose it. And not only for yourself, but you choose it for your descendants. That's one of the very first commands in the Bible. And then Jesus reaffirmed that. Jesus reaffirmed that. We had one of the comments earlier, but Jesus reaffirmed that you break laws because you got to choose life. Break laws in the Sabbath. If a lamb falls in the well in the Sabbath, you're going to save it. He was walking in the fields. They're plucking grains. They would glean on the sides of the road. And it was on the Sabbath, and they were condemned. And he gave it back to those Pharisaical leaders. But anyways, we're going to move on. That's what I wanted to start with, is choosing life, because for so many years, Jehovah's Witnesses have been choosing death. So now they have an opportunity to choose life. And hopefully they do. So we'll start here. The Friendly Atheist, I shared some of his stuff last week, a couple of weeks ago. Some of you might be subscribed to him. Really good. It's just really good summaries he does on the internet. A lot of work. So anyways, he says the Jehovah's Witnesses have suddenly modified one of their worst, most thoughtless policies, the one that bans all blood transfusions. I'll see if I can blow this up even more. There you go. That could potentially save some members' lives, but the change raises all kinds of questions about how religions really just pick and choose which rules to follow. And that's the point. We could play the talk. Has everyone heard this? Probably. It's going to get very old. But anyways, the bad blood rule has always been one of the most pernicious. I don't know if I said that right. Pernicious. Yeah, that's a good word. It's just a pernicious belief. It's a belief that, you get together with your family and friends as a JW. You're not talking about it. It's there though. And then someone's in the hospital and everyone says, well, the HLC's there, they're helping out, like they leave it all in the HLC's hands. And, but it's a thorn in their side, this part of their belief system. So the rule says members must refuse blood transfusions even if they're necessary to save their lives, because it's considered a violation of a biblical law. It's a policy that was introduced in 1945. So it always hasn't been a policy, folks. It was introduced. So it's been around almost 100 years. It's 2025, so 75 years for sure. And it's resulted in deaths of an estimated tens of thousands. Someone in the comments said today that, someone in the comments said today that they figured 30,000 deaths. I think it was this fella here. 30,000. I don't know where the numbers are. JWs aren't publishing those numbers. But there's thousands, tens of thousands that have died worldwide. And it's sad. We'll put some of these comments on the screen. Here, I think I can do it. Maybe I can't.
What are you trying to do?
Not smart enough to get the comments on the screen.
Oh, just hover over them and hit show.
Hey,
What is that?
that's no big deal. I remember there was a little link here, but I've been playing with a lot of stuff here. Okay, I'm going to carry on. So the Associated Press explains that religious base is a basis of life. So we all know their historic teaching. I think everyone online, there's 41 of us. We've all been in this. You know, abstain from food, from blood. Not just from food, but from transfusions. So the apostates have been telling Jehovah's Witnesses this for a long time. That like all the apostates for years, probably Franz told them that they were wrong in the blood. Anybody know what was Franz's view about the blood? I've never agreed with it from day one. And now that I can talk about it, it's easy to find the scriptures to show that the Bible is not a book about death. It's a book about living. It's a book about living your life. And there's always laws in life. But if sometimes laws in life get in the way of saving lives, you know, I use the illustration of driving down the highway, and you're always keeping on the proper side of the road. Now, I don't want to say what the proper side of the road is, because in Europe, many of our users are driving on the other side of the road. When you come over to Canada or US, you're driving on the right side of the road. So here we drive on the right side of the road. We call that the proper side of the road that you should be on. And we monitor the little lines in the middle that tell us if we can pass, if it's safe to pass, and so forth. So even though the lines say it's safe to pass, you can break the line. You can go on the wrong side of the road to pass someone. But what if it's not safe? What if there are cars coming, or what if there's an obstacle in the road? You see, sometimes we have to make decisions to save our lives, even though the little lines on the highway says you can pass. It's a dumb illustration. Anyways, the Bible's in a nutshell the same thing. You choose life. You know, it has rules. You follow the rules as best you can, but sometimes the rules don't apply. Like in the case of blood transfusions, they definitely don't apply. If you really research this whole thing on blood, and we've done a lot of videos, everyone else has, but even the word, you know, the blood, the living blood gets poured onto the ground. Now, for transfusion purposes, the blood's never dead. It's never eaten. It's never turned to a protein. It's never killed. It's kept alive. It's frozen. Blood that's donated is frozen, and it's classified and so forth. So if you donated your own blood for yourself, my dad used to have to go in and do bloodletting every week or two, and he'd give a pint of blood, but they just throw it away. His body made too much blood, and it didn't know how to stop. So our bodies are blood making machines, believe it or not. And you can produce a lot of blood. So this is a huge thing if you can go in and store your own blood, if there's a method. But if all these 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses, and then all the mixed company, you know, and I'm talking about XJWs too, that kind of believe in all of this stuff, they want to start going in and saving their blood. It's going to be a mess. We see that in the comments a lot. You know, I don't think that can happen, but what do I know? So this article talks about the real, you know, what went on all these years. The workarounds. Some cases, doctors have created clever scientific workarounds to save JW lives. So the doctors have been trying to save JW lives for, well, since his blood thing came into effect with this religion. People have been dying. And doctors, you know, they're going to court. We just read an article last week. You know, these little cards. I'm gonna put this back on the screen here. Oh, there's no blood transfusion cards. You remember that? As a God-fearing Christian and a believer of Jehovah's word, the Bible, I hereby demand that the blood in any way, shape, or form is not to be fed into my body. However, blood substitutes may be used in the case of extreme loss of blood. That was their belief. And then notice this, they don't quote Acts. You notice Let didn't talk about Acts, their big belief in Acts, abstain from blood. They're all referring to the Old Testament, Leviticus. We're not under that old law, like Let said. And we all have known that, but then why are they throwing these scriptures at us all the time? And then they throw in there, you must not eat blood of any sort. Well, hey, we're in a hospital. We're not eating blood. They're not feeding you blood sausage. They took that off the menu. But then it says no blood transfusions. You see, the Bible's not talking about saving lives. It's talking about using blood as a protein for food. It said pour it on the ground and then get your protein from the meat. And that's hunters know that. Hunters always bleed their animals. My dad was a hunter. The first thing you do when you kill an animal, and I watched my dad many a times do this on the farm because we used to butcher our own pork and beef. So he would have to go out and take care of putting the animal down. So the first thing he did was cut the main throat, and the animal would bleed out. So hunters know that. Or, what happens if you don't do that? I asked my father. He says, well, it contaminates the meat. It's not good for the meat. Why? Because in our blood system, we have, I'm not a doctor, but we have blood that carries the oxygen and stuff. And then we have blood, another channel that carries away the waste. So there's kind of two channels. You don't want the waste in polluting your food, right? Okay, we're going to move forward. It's about as clear-cut rule as you ever find in a religion, the blood thing. They've announced they're changing it. He plays the change here. Let's just play this. You see the gaslighting here? This is complete gaslighting because they're referring to an October 15th, 2000 watchtower, page 31. And he's saying, guys, we've always believed this stuff. Do you see what he's doing? This is gaslighting. A Christian must decide for himself how his own blood will be handled in the course of a surgical procedure, medical test. So they took this little clip from that watchtower, and I know that watchtower is probably talking about needles. When you get they have to take some of your blood to go to the lab and get it tested, right? That's what this is referring to. I'm guarantee you. But this guy is such a gaslighter. He's using this to justify this isn't really new light. It's always been around.
There's no second.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. No sound. Sorry about that. I'll just remove this, and then I guess I can add it back to stage, or do I just start over?
Got it?
I'll try it again. Okay, where are we here? Yeah, that's the one we're on. And then I turn this audio on here. Does that turn it off?
Yes.
Oh, I turned it off.
Yeah.
So it always is on.
It's
Sorry
a good
about
thing
that.
that he's so cute. It's all good.
I made this mistake last time. So sorry. It's only a short minute. Let's start this over and share this with you. Here I end up talking to myself. So here's the video.
Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood in medical and surgical care. Regarding the use of one's own blood, our position has been, as is stated in the October 15, 2000 issue of the Watchtower, there it says, a Christian must decide for himself how his own blood will be handled in the course of a surgical procedure, medical test, or current therapy.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This is gaslighting. He comes back and he's quoting this Watchtower from October 15th, 2000, and making it sound like we've always had this in our literature, guys. Like that's the message I'm getting from this talk he's given. This is the basis of their decision. We've always had this. You can decide on how you use your own blood. So it's gaslighting for sure.
For that reason, many Christians accept simple procedures such as blood tests, as well as more complicated procedures involving their own blood, such as the use of heart-lung machines, cell salvage devices, and kidney dialysis treatments. However, the list of treatment options continues to grow. Therefore, after much prayer and consideration of the scriptures, the governing body has decided to clarify our position on the use of a patient's own blood in medical and surgical care. The clarification is this: each Christian must decide for himself how his own blood will be used in all medical and surgical care. This includes whether to allow his own blood to be removed, stored, and then given back to him.
Okay. What a bunch of gaslighting. Okay, so that's the change. That's it. He says the Bible does not comment on the use of one's personal own blood in medical and surgical care. So that's their big change. He's stating we've kind of always had this in October 15th issue. And as someone else confirmed in the comments here that no, that was talking about something else, that article. I was trying to pull these comments up. Hide current comments. Okay.
Got him?
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of.
Robert the Gray has a good comment there
Robert.
at the bottom. Hello again, everybody.
I don't see it.
Just scroll over this. Don't jump like that. Right there. See?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
There
you
we
show
go.
and then hide. Okay?
Okay. Hey, hello, Robert Gray. He says, now the Watchtower has backpedaled on this. Does this make the hospital liaison committee out of date?
Good point.
That's what I've been wondering. Are they going to pull back? I doubt it, because it's your own blood. They're going to be in there like a dirty shirt. Now they're going to be like little doctors and have their little letters on how to store their own blood. And let's say last week we ran that article where that 16-year-old mother was carrying a child, and she was willing to sacrifice herself and the child for the JW doctrine, blood doctrine, last week. So it went to court, and the court said, no, give her blood. We choose life, save life where you can. If you need to use blood, you're going to have to use blood because you got to save life. So that went through the court system. But now, today, this was just last week. Now, today, that woman could slowly save up her blood in preparation for that operation. Like I said, the body does make a lot of blood. Okay, so what are they going to do with that liaison committee? They're going to be in there like a dirty shirt, I think. I think this is just, they're loosening up some control. Maybe someone in the governing body needs some blood. This will all come out. It's just really strange that they brought it out before the memorial and then did the big announcement, because they didn't want to take away from the memorial, and that was the big thing. So anyways, I'm going to pin this article. We're going to move forward. I'm going to move through this stuff really quick, and I'm going to show you what's in the news today. Pardon me?
There's just one quick comment. Deke is saying that there's a big HLC meeting today, actually.
Is there? Yes, there is. I heard about that.
Oh, okay.
Where is that? Let's throw that on the screen. So yes, there's a big HLC meeting today. What that will be about. Now let me see if I got the comments pulled up here. I think I do somewhere. There they are. I'll share this screen. And so there's a big HLC meeting. Well, that'll all have to be changed, right? They'll have to be updated. Maybe they don't watch the website, and they really have to make that official. There's a lot of stuff to do. So, and then because the memorial's coming up, they don't want this to be the center of attention over the memorial. So then they have this announcement for coordinators, and I can't blow this up any bigger, I'm sorry. But it says for coordinators of the bodies of elders, midweek meetings, governing body update 2. So midweek meeting, they want this presented. Please ensure that the adjustments are made to the meeting schedule in connection with the video. So they're going to play this video during the midweek meeting. After memorial. And for life and ministry meeting overseers, midweek meeting part on the governing body update, the video should be played the week of April 6th in place of the 15-minute local needs part. And if no midweek meeting is scheduled that week, the video should be played the week of April 13th. You see, I don't think they have a midweek meeting during the Memorial Week. You can let us know in the comments. I'm just going by memory. Now, the timing of one or more scheduled parts should be abbreviated to accommodate this video. So this is a big deal. They're going to make sure every Jehovah's Witness sees this. Now, I think all the Jehovah's Witnesses are seeing this. I just want to look. Here's what we're finding. This is on Twitter. Ron Pommel posted this. CTV News is carrying it. AvoidJW, they did an article on it right here. And we don't have time today. We're not going to read all this stuff. It's all this reiterating some of the same stuff. Avoid, I like a lot of their articles. They have a lot of personal stuff in there. There's some good journalism behind the Avoid articles. I don't know who did this one. If it was Miss Usato, she does a lot of them. This is a magazine, and this is the part I wanted to talk about here. Jehovah's Witnesses in May 22nd, 1994 wake. The magazine featured photos of 26 children with the caption, "Youths who put God first, meaning they died in the name of Jehovah due to their blood doctrine." And they were proud of this, like they're martyrs, these children. And it's like bragging about these young people. Like, would they get away with that today? It's in their literature. You can find it. I ran a video on that, but that's what they did. They made a whole magazine about bragging about how all these kids chose to die. While they didn't obey Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 19 to choose life, they chose death. They broke one of God's very first commands. So the Bible does not comment on meet the new killer, blood transfusions. There's a whole article here, and it's worth reading. We're going to put a link in our descriptions to these articles. The cost. In 2016, an article, Jehovah's Witness and Blood, tens of thousands dead in the hidden tragedy. And this is an AAG medical advisor report since 1961. Since 1961, 33,246 Jehovah's Witnesses died. Since 1961. And on an annual basis, that works out to an average of 594 deaths per year, with 1,220 deaths in 2016. Almost double in 2016. The journalist Lee Elder goes on to say there are numerous deaths on an annual basis. Let me get that bigger. That's one of the things I hated about being a Jehovah's Witness, is what if something happened on the highway? I had this blood card in my wallet and all this stuff. That went through my head a lot. I'm hoping that a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses will just choose life, period. Like, that's what I tell my doctor. I choose life. Whatever you need to do to save me, I choose life over death. And it's really quite simple, folks. That's all you have to tell your doctor. Now, that's a good article, The Painful Truth, Personal Testimonies. We're going to look at what people are saying. I lost my wife due to no blood. I was in a terrible accident with my JW family in the ICU. One of the first things my father asked me as I puked up blood in an immense pain was, "Did you really sign to allow blood transfusions?" And it assured me how terminally important this doctrine was to him when life and death were actually staring him in the face. Wow. So the kid's puking up blood, and all his dad was concerned about was the JW doctrine. Can you believe that, folks? That's what it is.
You should read the comments.
Okay, so let's look at some of the comments.
Hollywood. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Okay.
go up, scroll up. Just scroll on this. Down. One more. This one. I'm so sorry to hear this.
Okay, my mom refused blood last month, and now she's dead. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we are so sorry to hear this, Hollywood. So sorry.
Well, it's all over. I think for Jehovah's Witnesses or people that are kind of halfway in, even, this should be a wake-up call to start choosing life. So, if we're all going to follow the Bible, and I'm not saying I'm a big Bible follower or anything, I kind of throw all that stuff away, but I know what it says. It says to choose life. You can look at the Bible as a book of death if you want, or look at it as a book of life. And JWs like to think it's a book of life. They call it a book of life. Well, then start following it as a book of life, not death. You see, they're going to have to quit shunning too. Shunning everyone. That'll all have to quit. And you see, they're making it a book of death because at Armageddon, all of these people all over the world, good people, die. They've made it a book of death. That's why we know the governing body is not right. The religion is not right. That's why we know that. And that's why we've all gotten out. So if we're no longer under the Mosaic Law covenant and the Bible is silent on storing your own blood like it is on all other medical treatments, why isn't the entire doctrine done away with? Exactly. That's exactly the question. Why don't they just get rid of the HLC and just get rid of their blood doctrine and its conscience? And that's really, if you wanted to follow the Bible, that's what it says regarding shunning, all of that stuff. It's your business. The Bible is written for you, not for the governing body to make a bunch of little rules to dictate over people and collect money from them. That's not what this is all about. This is what it is. The GB, they're modern day Pharisees. Modern day Pharisees, apostates, everyone else that leaves, they turn over the money tables by not contributing. That's how the money tables are turned over. That's why they hate apostates. Because in all the years I pioneered and the 30 years I was in there as a witness, I never baptized anybody. My two kids got baptized because I coerced them. But I never baptized anybody, but as an apostate, I've helped thousands of people come out of that cult. So go figure. There was a video out there that if you do the numbers, it takes something like 66,000 hours to baptize a person. That's how much time it takes. So it's people aren't joining that religion. People are leaving that religion. Okay, we're going to move on. Jarrett Loesch, they talk about his transcript. It's all in. It's all in. This is all over the news. We went through the news. There's a lot of stuff on the news. BBC's carrying it. I couldn't believe it. It's just all over the news. Jehovah's Witnesses ease the rules on blood. It's a huge thing. This is a huge thing. Now the doctors have a way of saving their patients' lives. You know, they can store up some of this blood if they have to. You're getting an operation. You know, it's actually a safe way. If you can do that, that's kind of a safe way of doing it. You know, if it's a common practice, just go in and do some bloodletting, and they save it up for an operation in a month or so. I'm not sure how that works. The change will enable members to have transfusions of their own blood. You know, so therefore, Jehovah's Witnesses can have blood transfusions, kind of. That's what one of the videos said, kind of. So in planned surgeries, you know, it goes on to qualify it. In planned surgeries, for example, they continue to be prohibited from receiving the blood from others. So that's what kind of puts a smile on people's faces. You know, they, oh yeah, okay, that's your new rule. We all know it's person's conscience. A person can talk to their doctor and do whatever they want. But here the religion controls all of these people. You know, I said in my last video, the Jehovah's Witness people are like kindergarten people. They need all these rules. I remember being in there, what it was like. Everyone needed rules. Well, we better check with the watchtower and see if we can do that. You know, I hated that. Anyways, this news article, it's talking about in December of last year in the Edinburgh court ruled doctors would be able to give a blood transfusion to a teenage Jehovah's Witness if she needed one following an operation. The 14-year-old girl told the medics she did not consent to a transfusion because of her religious beliefs, but the lawyers for the Scottish Health Board sought an order to allow the procedure to go ahead if the girl's life was at risk. And the order was granted as Judge Lady Tate said she was satisfied with it in the child's best interest, giving appropriate weight to her views. So the court's all over, and this is just going to give the courts, you know, more leeway, you know, well, if it's especially a minor and they didn't save blood up and there was a procedure that was needed that required blood, they're going to have blood. Now, if they're a consenting adult and they didn't save their blood up for a procedure, but they need a blood transfusion, that's where it's going to get dicey for them. Okay, we're going to move on. This is another article, The Punch. It's all brand new news. Remember, this stuff just came out. The Watchtower people, the Jehovah's Witness people, don't really have the news. They're told to kind of keep it out of the headlines, keep it not in front of the people until after the memorial. But yet, all of the news around the world is carrying it. This is in this Punch article. Jehovah's Witnesses have announced a major clarification on blood transfusions, giving members the right to choose whether their own blood can be used during surgery. And then they talk about the biblical reasoning and so on and so forth regarding the use of a person's blood. This article says he, being Jarrett Loesch, cited biblical instructions from Noah and the Mosaic Law, noting that Christians today are not bound by the command to pour out blood and cover it with dust. The Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood in medical and surgical care. So they're just quoting what he said. So the Nigerian spotlight, the debate has taken on a renewed attention in the Nigeria following the death of cancer patients and social media personality Mensa Omola, also known as Auntie Esther, who died in December of 2025. She publicly rejected a blood transfusion recommended by the doctors, citing her faith, and instead chose alternative treatment supported by the Nigerians who do not. They donated over 30 million in Nigerian money. And despite warnings from her church, from the Kingdom Hall, from Watchtower about the possibility of disciplinary action, including disfellowshipping, she followed her beliefs. Her passing has sparked national debate on the tension between faith and medical guidance. So, folks, this is the reason why, this is one of the many reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses, the governing body, had to make this change. Their back is up against the wall everywhere they go, legally, for asking people to give up their life in support of how they interpret this all. Remember, folks, it's all an interpretation from Watchtower, and Watchtower admits it. This is the scary part. Watchtower admits it to our faces that they really don't know. They really don't know. Like they have all these rules and they don't have a clue. And they even admit that they're not inspired. What? They're not inspired. That means what? I thought they were. I thought they were inspired. How can you not be inspired to write all these Watchtower articles? No inspiration. Wouldn't the Bible inspire you? I don't know. That just, they say they're not inspired. And they're saying they'll make these changes, and even though people have died, they don't have to apologize. They're not going to apologize. No. So let's God's fault. It's God's fault. Jehovah's giving us light as he needs it. Now, if you believe in that stuff, folks, like that should help you to get out of this organization within itself. All the changes, but this is now we're getting to changes regarding people's lives. Next will be shunning. We're going to move through the shunning stuff next, but they can only do one thing at a time. But here's what I want you guys to remember is this. Yeah.
And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible, and so it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. Well, knowing this, then, we are not embarrassed about adjustments that are made, nor is an apology needed for not getting it exactly right previously. We understand this is how Jehovah operates. He reveals matters gradually when it is needed.
Okay, so that's kind of their out. They're right up front with everyone. They're telling everyone that they don't really have a clue what they're doing. They're getting their arses suit off all over the earth. And I just think it's a time to get out. It's an apostate organization. That's quite obvious. Okay, here's the next one. This is all over the news. What is this? CP24 World News. Jehovah's Witnesses ease policy on transfusions, allowing storage and use of one's own blood. This is by the Associated Press, published March 20th. And it's the 21st today. So that's the one that kind of has hit Twitter, has been shared a lot, this particular picture. And then it goes on to talk about the leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses are modifying their prohibition on receiving blood transfusions on religious grounds. So it's big news. Ex-members react to the policy shift. Some ex-members who are critical of the religious organization's policies and assert it is an insular authoritarian. They say the policy shift has some value but is inadequate. So let us know in the comments, do you feel this policy shift isn't enough on this blood issue? Now, we've seen it. I've seen it in the comments. there today. Yes, it's not enough. They should just get their noses out of our medical files. Why do they have their noses in people's medical files? There should be a meeting set up. Okay, turn in all your blood cards. We're going to burn them all. Burn all the blood cards. Talk to your doctor. Take all of that stuff off your charts. You make your own decisions when you go to the hospital. So I think there's more changes that have to come, because they follow esoteric law, and tacit compliance is an agreement to follow Jehovah law. Well, they follow whatever they want, it seems like. Here's one. Yes, good wife. I've noticed that it's just not time for Jehovah and Jesus to give us true knowledge because we are not ready to hear it. I can imagine how they are burning in God's estimation. Really.
Because I mentioned that they shifted their changes to their Jehovah. They're not infallible, but it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesday time, that's time when they are unfaithful slave. Wednesday, is that the memorial?
Wednesday tea time.
No. April 2nd is the memorial. Okay, we're going to carry on with this article. I don't think it goes far enough, but it's a significant change. That's what I think. It hasn't gone far enough, but it's maybe a change in the right direction. But now, what about all the people that have died? We've seen it in the comments here today. It's terrible. Okay, so blood donated by a patient who can now receive it back if a transfusion is needed during or after surgery. Medical experts say the blood can be taken from 6 weeks to 5 days before surgery. It's thrown away if it's not needed during or after surgery, and it can be done at some hospitals or blood banks. Donating one's own blood can make a person anemic or have a lower blood count, experts warn, but there's a lower risk of having a reaction because your body recognizes your own blood, and there's no risk of contracting infectious disease from a different donor. Jehovah's Witnesses' historic teachings on blood transfusion stem from biblical passages requiring believers to abstain from blood, which they interpret as applying not just to food, but to transfusions. And while they teach that many detailed dietary laws of the Old Testament portion of the Bible no longer apply, they say this prohibition on partaking of blood is upheld as a universal principle for believers in other Bible passages. The organization has parsed the implication of this teaching in the past. It is previously determined, for example, that medical procedures that temporarily remove blood quickly return it to the body, such as a kidney dialysis machine in which blood is filtered, impurities are acceptable. But they had distinguished that from removing blood and storing it for an extended period before returning it. So before, it was okay to have a dialysis machine, or sometimes there's a blood saver. If you're doing an operation, that was all okay, because you're using it right away. But storing it was a no-no before. So we know it's all just man's rules. They make all these little rules to control all their people, keep them in a kindergarten mentality, keep them not wanting to think for themselves. Now, in 2000, an official publication, the Watchtower stated, hence, we do not donate blood, nor do we store transfusion of our blood. That practice conflicts with God's law. Loesch did not detail what prompted the change in the organization's stance. He did refer to increasing types of medical intervention available, although blood transfusions have long been used. And he said the Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood in medical and surgical care. And in a press statement, the Jehovah's Witnesses emphasized that their core belief regarding the sanctity of blood remains unchanged. And they said many medical providers have been respecting members' healthcare directives. End of article. So yes, the only thing that inspires them is love of money. I would have to agree with Sherry. They do everything to control the dollar. Control the people, you control the dollar. Here's another one, Ghana Web. Again, this is reaching all over the world in one day. One day. Jehovah's Witnesses update their blood policy to allow transfusion. This is another article. It's referencing why Rollins banned Latter-day Saints and Jehovah's Witnesses in 1989. They got some good links. Come Let Us Reason, Jehovah's Witnesses and Blood. There's a little video there. I don't know what that is.
Your friend me, yo, I've been no, we rely, maybe a Tom one, only agency here. Bibi Aboko.
Okay, so I don't know if that's sales on livestock or if that's on the blood. So, anyways, that was in the Ghana Web update. That's where it's hitting all over the world. Let's move on, see what we have here. It's another tab. This is the AP News. Again, we've looked down several pages of news. This is all there is, all over the world. Jehovah's Witnesses ease policy on transfusions, allowing storage and use of one's own blood. Again, this same picture is surfaced. Different people are carrying it. Leaders of witnesses are modifying it. So, same thing. Okay, what do we have here? This is another tab. Another news article on Jehovah's Witnesses ease the blood transfusion. Who did this one? The Cable. This was done by Cable News. Again, picture of a bag of blood. Has anybody seen a bag of blood like that in the hospital? I've been in the hospital a lot. I've never ever seen a bag of blood. Never. Jehovah's Witnesses have eased aspects of their doctrine on blood transfusions, allowing members to decide whether their blood may be removed and stored. So that's it. All over the world. What's this one? This is Bakersfield.com. Jehovah's Witnesses share the message of hope with events. More than 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses around the world are inviting public to 2 events designed to educate the community. On the evening of April 2nd, the annual observance of the Lord's evening meal will be featured. And then they're saying a talk highlighting what Jesus taught about mankind's future. So that's probably the special talk that comes the next weekend, or next Sunday, I guess. And during the campaign, the witnesses will extend an invitation to a special public talk entitled, Who Will Restore the Earth? It will be delivered this month in more than 118,000 congregations. So this 30-minute program will address what the Bible says about man's relationship to the earth, Earth's future restoration, how to benefit from the Bible promises. It was almost 2,000 years ago when the Jewish calendar that Jesus instituted the Lord's meal. And the witnesses obeyed that command. That was pretty well the end of the article. So this is Bakersfield.com. That's what they're sharing. The Jehovah's Witnesses share the message of hope. It sounds like, this is the news in the community, I guess. So a lot of little newspapers will share this kind of a message of Jehovah, of their memorial. And I think Jehovah's Witnesses try to get the local news to share stuff like this. It's really good advertising for them to get a news media sharing their hope. Now it's not dealing with death. It's dealing with hope, right? Okay, what's this one? Jehovah's Witnesses now allow a blood practice at long opposed. This is the altitudes. It's another paper. 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses are living under one of the most debated medical policies in modern religion. And for the first time, they're changing it. Again, we have all those pictures of blood bags. I know when I go to the lab and I have to put my arm, you get your arm out and they put a band around it and they start taking blood. I look the other way. I can't look at the needle. I can't look at any of that stuff. It's just, ugh. I wouldn't be a good doctor. Anyways, the change announced by senior leadership, it talks about that, what Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe, it talks about that, and what the new blood transfusion actually changed. It says each Christian must decide for himself how his blood will be used in medical and surgical care. So I don't know about the ladies, but the guys are looked after because it's going to be about his blood. Okay, I'm just trying to throw a little joke in there. Okay, I know it's not funny. Now, a spokesperson for the group was careful to reinforce what has not changed. Our core belief regarding the sanctity of blood remains unchanged. So therefore, HLC is not going away. What is HLC? It's a hospital liaison committee. And they have them all over the place. They're like flies on a wall in the hospitals. And when you go into a hospital, if you don't want an HLC member in your room, then don't put a religious belief. Do not mention Jehovah's Witnesses anywhere on your check-in chart. And under religion, just put not affiliated. Then you won't have anybody showing up. And the update applies specifically to this procedure, using a person's own blood.
Hey, Vern, can I just interject here again?
Yes.
When you just went for your medical procedure, remember on the form, there was 2 lines.
Mm-hmm.
One clearly said, sign here if you accept a transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
And the other said, sign here if you don't.
Right.
Without even mentioning religion.
So they're very clear on it. When I went, they had 2 signature lines. Sign here if you accept transfusion, sign here if you don't. And of course I chose life, so if I need that, I sign there. For my procedure, very seldom would you need a blood transfusion, but anything can happen when you're put out and you're being operated or looked at, dealt with. Anything can happen. So that's why they have these forms signed. And this form, folks, was put in front of me hours before going in. This was not done in advance. It was hours. It was just put in front of me. I had to make that decision very quickly before going in. So that's how they did it here in Alberta, where I went to the hospital in Calgary. So here's the thing. Type of blood use: receiving blood from another person, prohibited, still prohibited. Using your own stored blood, prohibited, previous, and now permitted. Blood use in planned surgeries, prohibited, but now permitted with own blood. Emergency transfusions from donors, prohibited and still prohibited. So they still want you to die in certain situations if that's what it takes to follow their rules. So that's where you have to, I warn you guys as an audience to be careful. Remember, these guys don't have all the answers. They're not inspired. They make changes, and they have no reason to apologize for you after you've died and you lost out on a lot of life. But yet the Bible says, choose life for you and your family. That's what the Bible says in Deuteronomy. They never quote that. Why former members say it doesn't go so far enough, that's what we're talking about here. It's not going far enough. So these news articles are talking about it, and it's putting Jehovah's Witnesses again in front of the news. So we're gonna remove that. There we go. I'm on the full screen. And I'm going to transition over to our comments. What's came in on our channel comments. I was going through the comments. There's a very clear pattern emerging through the comments. So there's a speculation. I've seen this a lot. People are asking why now, what changed internally, and is there something going on behind the scenes? You know, someone in the governing body need a medical procedure which involves blood. You know, this or maybe their wives, family, who knows? One comment said that maybe someone in the leadership needs medical treatment involving blood. I think a lot of people have had that thought, you know, so you're not alone if that's crossed your mind. But even without speculating on why, the key thing is not theory. The key thing here is the shift itself is happening. And that's where the real conversation helps us to stay grounded. So the secondary reaction I've seen in the comments is anger. And this one's heavy. There's a lot of people saying my friend died because of this policy. We've seen it in our comments here today. People lost loved ones following these rules. And when they see change, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like betrayal. Because they're asking why now and not then, not yesterday. And that's not a small question, folks. That's a deeply human question. Why now? Why not yesterday? And this is the thing. Why couldn't I have a beard yesterday? You see, all Jehovah's Witnesses are kindergarten people. So please graduate. If you're watching this program and you're a Jehovah's Witness or you're halfway in or whatever, graduate. Move on. You don't have to be a kindergarten. You can make decisions. Graduate. Graduate all the way out. Here's the next reaction is confusion. Confusion. People are trying to reconcile, you know, what they were taught before with what they're hearing now. It doesn't really make sense. I can see it in the comments. There's questions like, what does my blood card even say now? Would I have been judged differently today? And underneath all of this is, what is truth if it keeps moving? You know, that's what we're seeing in the comments. So let's bring this back. It's easy to get pulled into speculation, emotion, and frustration, but the clearest way to look at this is simple. What was once treated as absolute is now being presented with more flexibility, and when something moves from rule to conscience, that's not a small adjustment. That is a fundamental shift in authority. At least you're trying to make it look that way. But when it comes to saving your own blood and reusing it, that's your business now. But if you take someone else's blood, it's still their business. HLC is going to report on that. You're going to be in a little room if you live. And yeah, you probably will live because you took a blood transfusion to save your life. So you'll be in the little room with the elders. If you're not apologetic and say it was all pressure and I caved in and you guys are right and I'm wrong, if you don't have that attitude, then you're probably going to be dealt with more harshly. Like if you come in and say what I'd like to say, I can't say it online, but if you come in and say, I don't agree with any of your stuff, I agree with Deuteronomy 30, choose life, and stay out of my files. And especially if you talk to others in the congregation about that, you're going to get dealt with, perhaps disfellowshipped. So when something moves from rules to conscience, that's not a small adjustment. It's a fundamental shift in authority. They want to make it sound like a conscientious matter because they're getting, I believe they're getting sued in the background, and they're fighting lawsuits on this. And it's going to be a lot easier to fight a lawsuit if they can go to court and say, well, it's the person's own conscience. They'll make today's ruling sound like it was always. And that's how they gaslighted us now. They said, we've had this in our magazine since year 2000. That's just another form of gaslighting. So I want to end this on this because I know people watching today and tonight and this morning are in very different places. Some are still in, some are waking up, some have been out for years. But wherever you are, your experience matters, your questions matters, and your process, well, that's your own. So let's take a look at the comments. Anything else we should highlight before we end the show?
Great chat today.
It's been a great chat.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I'm coming in here again because we had a new chatter, Sonia, who actually lost her mom. I believe it was last year because of this as well.
There's been a lot of people that are having a hard time with this, especially if you lost a loved one yesterday or last year, and you could have fixed it.
Yeah,
you could have maybe did this, save some blood up.
And I know I've said in the chat several times too, too many lives lost or affected by a company's policies, because that's what this is.
It's a company.
It is a company capitalizing on spiritual matters. So sorry.
Okay, well, folks, if anything tonight has brought something up for you, you're not alone. There's people out here that understand. xjwfriends.com. I think I got a banner on that. No, I don't. XJW Friends. It's a website. I should show that to you guys. There we are. XJW Friends. There we go. Okay, so here's a website. I'll share it on the screen with you. Share this tab. There we go. XJW Friends. It's a support community that can help anybody dealing with coming out. These are all XJWs here. So it's a community that understands what you're dealing with. So there's supporters, therapists, and life coaches. You can explore the support here. And these are some of the therapists and life coaches that you'll find on xjwfriends.com. And gives a little history. You can click on their pictures and then it goes right into their file, and you can get a little history on them. So you can get on Discord as well through XJW Friends, and it's when you hit support, it comes up here. Join us on Discord right here. You just hit this button and you can join up. In Discord, there's a whole bunch of people there that you can have private conversations, and what happens in Discord stays in Discord. So it's just an online community of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's a place to go so that you're not alone through all of this. And then on XJW Friends, it's kept quite current. There's upcoming events that are happening, and you can click on them. And Joe and Fran, it ties into their show on Wednesday and everything that they're doing, and they have a lot to do with everything that's on XJW Friends. So there's books and all kinds of things that you can see on that website. It gives you something to check out. Okay, well, that brings a close, I guess, to our program for today. I guess all I have to say is, as always, live your life with love. That works. And love is choosing life. Love is choosing life. The Bible is about choosing life over death. Think about it. That's what the whole memorial is about, choosing life over death. Okay, well, folks, we love you all, and we will see you next Saturday. Bye for now.